The 2025 Civic and Economic Literacy Survey found that 58% of adults fail a basic civics test. And what's more, 74% of those same people think they could explain how the US government works.
You serious?
Here's a couple more. 1 in 6 US adults cannot name any branch of government, and only 1 in 20 can name all 5 freedoms in the First Amendment. By the way, it's a proven fact that Americans with higher civic literacy scores report a greater ability to deal with a political disagreement, something we should value highly in our current society. So what happened? How does a country built on the idea of informed citizens end up with millions of people who don't fully understand how their own system works? If we, the people, hold power over our government, and yet we don't understand it, where is this all going? Americans not understanding their government didn't happen by accident, and it's not for a single reason. It's the outcome of interconnected forces, each one reinforcing the next, and we're all to blame. And yes, so here's the thing. Most Americans did learn civics at some point. The problem is, it wasn't treated as something that mattered. In many schools, civics or government is taught in only one class, or one semester, or sometimes just a unit inside of another subject. Now compare this to math or reading, which are reinforced every single year. 12 years of math, reinforcing and building upon concepts, repetition and practice from 12 different instructors with different perspectives and angles to get through to you, the student, versus 1 year or 1/2 of 1 year, or even 1 part of 1/2 of 1 year's worth of civics. So right away, you're dealing with something fragile, something that's introduced briefly and then never really built on. Some states do require more civics. Currently, 3 states require a full year of civics in middle school as well as high school, with a few others requiring half a year of civics in middle school in addition to high school requirements. These states are all-stars, but there's a good 40 or so states that require only the bare minimum. The biggest reason states don't make this a requirement is a shift from policy, specifically the No Child Left Behind Act. This law tied school success to standardized testing, especially in reading and math. If scores were too low, schools faced consequences, like a loss of funding, state intervention, even restructuring. So schools adapted. They focused on what was being measured: more test prep, more remediation, and more practice tests. And subjects that weren't tested, well, they didn't disappear, but they became secondary. Civics, government, history, all still there, but no longer the priority. So students didn't stop learning civics, they just stopped learning it deeply. I know something like a placemat will not provide deep learning. I know this, but I have these on the table for my kids, and I think they're great. I know they're not going to spend much time in class on these subjects, so I figured they can see it on a daily basis at the dinner table. Presidents, states, countries, and more. I put these out with 0 instruction, and my 9-year-old has already asked me, why was Washington not in a political party? How the heck did FDR serve for so long? And why do we only have 2 political parties to choose from now? He fell right into my educational trap. And we had some good discussions with those questions. And even if I didn't know the answers to the questions, we could look them up together or try to think of possible answers that might explain them. I can't recommend these enough for keeping my kids' eyes on this stuff on a daily basis. I'll leave a link in the description below for these exact placemats, but there's tons of these that you can select and choose from. And they keep the table clean. Win-win. Even when civics is taught, it often isn't experienced. Students memorize the 3 branches of government, checks and balances, and their basic definitions, but they rarely debate real issues or simulate decision-making and forget about engaging with local government. Everything is very surface level, so the knowledge never becomes real. It stays abstract. Congress passes laws sounds simple until you try to actually follow how that process works in real life. And if something never connects to your world, your brain doesn't hold on to it, so it fades. There's another layer most people don't talk about. Civics isn't just educational, it's politically sensitive. The moment a class moves from how government works to how government actually behaves, you're no longer just teaching facts. You're stepping into the world of interpretation, and that can be risky. Teachers have to worry about parent complaints, administrative pressure, and accusations of bias, which could cost them their jobs. So what happens? They stay neutral, they stay surface level, and they avoid controversy. None of these things help students. The one time in their public education they are going to learn about this stuff. Students often leave civics lessons with definitions, but not understanding, and structure, but no context. For many people, school is no longer their main source of civic knowledge. Media is. Not textbooks, not teachers, feeds. And feeds don't teach systems. They deliver moments. A headline, a clip, a viral argument. So people piece together their understanding from fragments. But fragments don't form a full picture. They form impressions. And impressions can feel like knowledge, even when they're incomplete. This is evidenced a lot on body cam footage from the cops.
No, sir, I don't. Here's my license. Here's my.
Can you hand me your license?
I will not hand you my license. I am not required to hand you in your hand my license.
Listen, I'm going to tell you.
Some of these videos are so heartbreaking because the citizen being arrested genuinely believes the words coming out of their mouth, that the law works the way they saw on a social media post and not, how the real world interprets them. Now, we mentioned in the beginning the proven fact that Americans with higher civic literacy scores report a greater ability to deal with a political disagreement. Higher civic literacy also helps citizens know the law, their rights, and what they actually cannot do. Okay, remember when I said it's the outcome of interconnected forces, each one reinforcing the next? This is where the cycle really locks in, because education doesn't stop at school. It continues at home. Except many adults were shaped by the same system. They also had limited civics education, and that education was shallow and surface level. They didn't retain much of it and have supplemented their learning through social media instead. So when the next generation asks questions, there's often no deeper explanation waiting, just opinions or uncertainty, or maybe worse, silence. And without reinforcement, knowledge fades even faster. Look, I don't share this information often. Never really had a reason to. I'm a private guy, but I'm going to show you my analytics for the channel. Can you guess what age bracket has the most interest in my civics-based channel? Definitely not young people. Check these numbers out. More than half my viewers who want to educate themselves on government and civics, or are just interested in my take on things, are 55 and older. This is not the typical age bracket that's going to be answering a kid's questions at the dinner table about civics. 80% of the viewers are 35 and older. And also, ladies, what happened? We love having you here. Welcome to the channel. I also want to shout out to the very small percentage of you who are subscribed. I love each and every one of you. But if you're watching this and you made it this far into the video, you are that shining beacon of knowledge. Share what you learn. America needs you. There's also another problem that's occurring outside of schools, students, and parents. The government itself has gotten more complex. They play a much larger role now as opposed to even 25 years ago. Take healthcare, for example. 25 years ago, most people didn't need to understand much beyond private insurance or programs like Medicare. Then came the Affordable Care Act. Now you have federal mandates, state-run exchanges, subsidies based on your income, and legal challenges that changed how the law works. Understanding your own coverage now can require navigating a mix of federal rules, state decisions, and court rulings. Even something as basic as voting has become more layered. Rules can vary not just by state, but sometimes by county. You have different ID requirements, from strict photo ID to non-photo ID cards to digital ID versus restricting digital ID versus student ID being acceptable or not versus no ID needed whatsoever. There's also differing early voting windows, mail-in ballot rules, and redistricting decisions, many of which are shaped by court cases, including ones like Shelby County versus Holder. So participating in democracy itself can require navigating a patchwork of rules. Then there's the role of agencies. Today, much of what people experience as law doesn't come directly from Congress. It comes from federal agencies issuing regulations. Organizations like the Environmental Protection Agency and Food and Drug Administration create detailed rules that affect our everyday life. And these rules can be changed based on new administrations, court rulings, or even policy shifts from the same administration. So the system isn't just 3 branches anymore in practice, it's layers of institutions interacting constantly. This makes understanding government today harder than it used to be. And when people don't fully understand a system, they don't just stay neutral. They fill in the gaps, and often those gaps are filled by simplified narratives. Entertainment as news, rights versus privileges, social media stories, what we are entitled to, mainstream media bias, and good versus bad. So it's not just that people lack knowledge. Many people have distorted knowledge. A version of the system that's been filtered, simplified, and sometimes reshaped entirely. This to me is actually more concerning than the lack of knowledge. You put it all together and you get a cycle. One where schools de-emphasize civics, students learn it in a shallow way, adults don't reinforce it at home, media replaces structured learning, the complexity of the government continuously increases, and misunderstanding spreads like wildfire. And then that same generation feeds back into the system, teaching the next one and repeating the pattern. The United States wasn't just built on freedom. It was built on the idea of informed citizens. You can see that in the United States Constitution. We the people, the concept of popular sovereignty, elections being decided by citizens, and speech and press being protected. A system like that only works if the people understand it. And right now, that understanding is thinner than it used to be. Not because people are less capable, but because the system around them has changed. So the question isn't just, why don't Americans know civics? It's, what happens to a system like this when fewer and fewer people understand how it works? If you've got any ideas on how to fix this, I'm all ears. I'd also like to give a huge shout out to my Patreon cabinet members, Howard and Kevin, Elliot S., Mo, Neutron Ken, thank you so much, and welcome to our newest member, Peter S. If you want to support this channel, the best way to do it is through my Patreon. So I hope to see you there. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks so much for sticking to the end of my video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. We'll make more videos soon.